Hey, what's going on? I have a little bit of a different video than what you're used to seeing on this channel today. If you are anything like me, then you have a bunch of spare parts laying around after modifying your e-bike. I have a Talaria Sting. I also have a Super73. So in this box, I actually have my old headlight from my Super73 because I replaced it with a cane built light. And the reason why I replaced it, well, one, I really like the cane built lights, but I broke the headlight. This is like a cheap aluminum bracket that comes on your headlight. Well, I broke that off. So I ended up swapping out the headlight with the cane built, but I was left with the stock light. And so I kind of took it apart to see what it was all about. And it has some weird rattle in it, but I can't open up this case to figure it out. So if you have any ideas there, let me know. I want to turn this headlight into a wall hanging lamp. So let me show you my idea. I have the stock headlight. Here's a nice up close look. Again, that rattle, I'll deal with it. Then I have, you know, the mounting case or bracket, but you can see it's nice and broken right there. Then I got this little on-off switch actually from Cane Built, but because I opted for the high and low beam, they sent me just the standard on and off switch, but I have the high and low beam switch on my bike right now. And this is actually what gave me the idea. I bought this double female end Hygo connector, the yellow, because they both use a yellow connector there. So I'm actually going to be cutting this in half. Then I needed to look for a solution of something that would take the 110 voltage from my house and dumb it down to the 12 volts. And I think this is going to work. This is something that they use for like those permanent LED lights that they put on houses for like permanent Christmas lights and stuff. So I think this is going to work. I'm going to take some precautions. And then my thought was to use my stock handlebars, because I have some different handlebars on my bike, as the mounting piece, and then actually hang that on the wall and use that as my mount for the lamp. Aesthetically, we'll see what it looks like. This is just a fun experiment. And then of course, I have some heat shrinks and some connectors here. I don't want to fumble around with any soldering, so I'm going to try those connectors. And then to mount the light to the handlebars, I just have a couple of these old cell phone holders that clamp on. I just got to figure out the best way to mount them to this bracket here. So we'll cross that road when we get there. But yeah, that's everything I have. First of all, let's remove this broken bracket here. It just looks like it's a couple of bolts and nuts. Also need to clean out the inside of it. This is a year's worth of grime and dust. And as I do this, I'm curious to know, what do you guys do with all of your extra stuff that you take off of your Super73 or any e-bike that you're modding? I just kind of keep it in my garage. And of course, I keep it around for a few reasons. One, if I want to go back to stock, or two, if I ever want to sell the part that I put on my bike and take it off, I like to keep the stock parts. That's pretty nasty. All right, good enough for now. Okay, so then I'm going to take off this broken bracket here, just a couple of nuts and bolts. Just going to throw these away. There's no sense in keeping them around. All right, let's put the headlight back in. We want to make sure it's lined up, you know, straight up and down, the right orientation there. So this is kind of going to be the top, and then these are horizontal. And I believe where it says DOT safe at the top there, that's going to be the top of your mount. Okay, so these are some tiny screws that mount the cover on, and it does have to line up as well, which I think that lines up perfectly. So make sure this is back on. I really hope that rattle doesn't bug me too much. All right. Got it put back together. So we'll set that aside, and let's talk about this Hygo wire. I call them a Hygo wire. It's just like a 3-pin connector. You'll see them all over your Super73 or other e-bikes. But what I'm gonna do here is actually cut this in half. Now, I could have cut the connector off of the light itself and also that switch, but like I said, I like to keep things stock, so I figured I would just use this connector. And if I ever need to use this light for anything else, I can disconnect it rather than having to rewire anything. So that's how it should work in theory. So let's cut this thing in half and and see what we're working with in here. I'm gonna strip it, and if you're gonna do this, get yourself a good pair of wire strippers. These ones aren't great. Your teeth work too, but I wouldn't recommend it. All right, so we're giving a black, a red, and a white wire. Our red is our positive, our black is our negative, white is neutral. I'm just gonna try using the black and the red. I am no electrician here, so if you're gonna do this at your own risk. We got to strip each one of these individual wires as well. Definitely helps to have the right tools. And I noticed in a few of my videos, you guys have commented on my shaky hands. Well, unfortunately, that's something I can't control. Oh crap. You don't want to do that. Just broke off some of the wire. Just something I was born with. Don't worry, it's not Parkinson's, but it does help, or it does make doing projects like this take a little bit more time. In this case, using your teeth does work better than the tools I have. All right, so I have my wires stripped. Now let's see what the sequence is that I need to connect the light and the switch. So here's my thought. I'm gonna use these connectors and then heat shrink around them too to give double insulation, just to make sure that nothing crazy happens. But you just plug those in, and then this end crimps onto the wire like so. So let's take this thing first. Let's throw some connectors on there. So let's just clamp it on, and it should stay. There we go, nice and tight. So we got these connections ready to go. I'll just set these aside to make sure I do the right ends. Now we'll wire these together. All right, now we'll clamp the female end of these connectors. Already got the black one done. Let's go for red. Okay, so I have the HIGO connectors wired. We have our positive connection, our negative connection, and then I terminated the neutral. So we'll see how that works. I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, I'm not an electrician, but in theory, we should be able to have a working light at this point. So I'm gonna plug in my connections. I'll make sure I match black to black and red to red. And then we'll go outside where I have one of those GFI plugs outside, just to make sure nothing crazy happens and blows a fuse or anything like that. So I'm gonna get these connected and we should be ready to test. We will plug in the light to one side and the switch to the other and give it a shot. So I'm outside, and this is why there hasn't been much riding content. It's cold and there's a ton of snow. These poor bikes. Okay, moment of truth. I'm gonna make sure it's off first. And I'm gonna plug it in. Okay, nothing crazy yet. Does this work? It does not. Why? Why isn't this working? Back to the drawing board. I'm sure you electricians already know what the problem is. So I'm just gonna jump online and double check something real quick and we'll go from there. I think I know what the issue is, but we'll see. So after Googling around a little bit and checking with some friends, I think I might know what the problem is. Let me show you. So when I touch these ends to the multimeter, it should be showing like 13.8 to 14.5 volts on this power supply, and it's only showing 0.39. So I don't know if it's a defective power supply or I don't know what I ordered, but I got to do some more research. I might send this back and find something else. As you can see, a few days have passed, and after using my digital multimeter on that last power supply, it didn't seem like it was putting out the right amount of power. So I found this one on Amazon, and I'm gonna see if this is the answer here. But before I get started on putting anything together, let's see if I get the right voltage. So again, this is going to be a 110 to 12 volt power. Let's see what I get here. The way that this works is I'm just going to connect my wires into here, and then that just plugs into that adapter. So my wires will go in right here. See if I get anything. So I'm getting 0.41 on my DCV. That was this, I was getting 0.38 on the other one. So maybe I just had my settings on this wrong. That's discouraging. Well, let's wire this in and see what happens. All right, so I got my light here and my switch, and they're connected to those adapters or those plugs that I created the other day. Let me clean up my wires just a little bit, make them a little bit more useful. I will even the lengths on my black and red wires here. Not recommended, but using my teeth to strip the wires. All right, let's stick the red in the positive side. We'll screw that down. Secure it. It's definitely a little bit easier to work with. And we'll do the black in the negative side. Definitely do a little bit better on this black side, but for now, for testing purposes, we're just gonna see if this works, and I'll clean it up. Leaving my neutral wires out. There's no shock. And no light. I wonder if my light's busted. Only one way to find out. Actually, let's do this. I'm gonna unplug it first. Let's just do the one light straight in without the switch. I don't think this is gonna do anything. Still nothing. I need to plug this light into my bike and see if it even does anything. So I got my regular headlight working. So if my theory works, the brake light should light this light up. The light's not the issue. I plugged it in the brake light because the front of the bike, the connector was a little bit less accessible. So we know that works. How'd that be for a tail light? People would hate me. All right, it's obvious. I have no idea what I'm doing, so I'm reaching out to you to ask for your help. If you're watching this video to see how I did it and you have the answers, please let me know in the comments below. This is going to be continued.